Hello? Is that working? Can anybody hear me? Only in-game audio. I think it's working now. Here we go. Okay, there we go. Well, there we go. Well, that says it all, doesn't it? Because I was literally sitting here explaining how I'm not very good at this game. Turns out I'm not very good at turning microphones on properly either. But here we are. So we've got some help today. I'll chop off the beginning. All right, guys, don't stress. And everyone wants to rewatch this because they obviously will. We've got some help today because last time I demonstrated that I can't multitask at all because even though I built this structure, it doesn't quite look how I'd like it to look, so I'm going to do a little bit of interior decor today. I'm going to spruce this up so it looks a little bit more lifelike. And I don't know what to refer to my supporting mechanic as here, but they're going to make a start on the actual secret annex, which comes to the back of the building here. Alright, that's the plan. So we probably won't get it finished today. I say probably, we won't get it finished today, but we'll make some progress, and then we'll talk later about what the plan is going forward for how we're going to use this channel, because the exam this video is being made for the use of is next Thursday, so we'll get to the end of this video and we'll see where we're up to from there. So I've got an eye on comments as we go. I'm going to start replacing these walls so they look a little bit more wall-like, and we're going to start. I mean, it's worth saying, if you look at images of the front house of the secret annex, this colour here is pretty close. This is pretty decent. There is actually a door back here, so we'll put a door in there. But that bit is pretty decent. But the iron blocks I've used don't look too much like walls, do they? Because they're iron blocks. So we'll swap them, and I'm going to lay some carpet as well. And then while I'm doing that, my friend will. I'm going to call him. Someone give a good name for someone. I don't know how we can. I don't keep calling him my friend. That sounds so lame. We'll start on the annex back here. So he's got a set of blueprints. I've got a set of blueprints, and I've put the blueprints up just in case anybody wants to see. Someone was never good at Minecraft. Oh, there we go. It's not just me then. If you want to see what we are building, if you want to see what we're actually constructing, I have put a link to the blueprints on a community post on YouTube a while back, a few days ago. But I've also put one on my story on Instagram. I've got an Instagram account now because I'm realising more and more that lots of people are not getting notifications when I'm starting the live streams. So a few people have asked randomly, basically, when the streams are going up, because they've seen that they've been uploaded, but they've not actually seen when they're coming on. I just don't think the bell is working very well. It was, and that's. I'm going to suggest that's potentially why not so many people are seeing it live or at all. So I thought if I go onto Instagram, if I go onto Instagram, that's a bit more sensible, and it just means that if people do miss it, we can keep hacking away at the floor. It's a bit easier to keep on top of things. So there is a link also on the Instagram account. Now, if you want to see that, I've put a link. I'm going to use. I don't want to use that one. I want to use just some plain concrete would be fine. I put a link to the Instagram account in the description. All right. So that's all the kind of housekeeping stuff. We'll keep an eye on comments as we go, and if people have questions or anything that's mentioned, throw them in. And then it's also worth saying, actually, what I'm hoping to do with the Instagram account as well is I'm taking clips from these streams and I'm turning them into reels so that it's a little bit more organised. If people want to see what's a particular clip about a particular issue, say the Treaty of Versailles or hyperinflation or whatever, it's really easy to find. So that's all the boring stuff, I guess. And then we'll go from there. There's some advice here on notifications. This is good. Plenty of good blocks. Yeah, I'm going to use this one. This looks much more realistic. If you've seen the inside, it looks like this. And we'll whack a door in somewhere. I'm not too sure where this one is. Oh, concrete falls. Oh, well, that's awkward. Doesn't matter, though. We'll put a door there and whack this up here. And let's see. So someone said about the notifications. Notifications are usually delayed. Oh, okay. Maybe that's part of it. Could even be delayed by a few more minutes. Maybe. But either way, right, I'll start laying some carpets, and we'll pick up from where we did last time. So last time, the story we were telling, ultimately the story of why this building that is being constructed at the back here was built and used to keep people safe from the Nazis, We've not got to the Nazis yet, but they are going to turn up today. So, the story we've told so far tells that the German leader, the Kaiser, left or abdicated his position at the end of the First World War. A new system of government was put in charge called the Weimar Republic, and they faced a number of challenges really early on. A group of communists tried to kick them out. They survive by the skin of their teeth. A group of right-wingers and ex-soldiers tried to kick them out and tried to put the Kaiser back in charge, and they managed to get rid of them as well. They basically play different groups off against each other to remain in charge. We talked about this in the last stream. But then just as we were finishing, we looked at something called the invasion of the Ruhr. So basically we looked at the fact that when Germany defaulted on a payment they owed to the Allies because of the Treaty of Versailles in November of 1922... Hang on, there's a quick way of doing this. Here we go. Now we're talking. When they default on a reparations payment, the French and the Belgians basically go into an industrial region within Germany to take resources that they feel that they are owed. So basically, if you're not going to pay us the money, then we'll come and take what you owe us in raw materials. So that's basically where we got up to. Now, the Weimar Republic's response is not too smart, to be completely honest, to this. What they basically do is they tell the workers in the industrial region to go on strike. So they just tell them, don't work. It's called it's a policy of passive resistance. The idea is, if you don't work, then the French and the Belgians can't get what they want, the goods that you're producing. So the French and the Belgians eventually will bring their own troops in to try and collect what they're owed anyway. But the workers themselves in Germany, who have been told not to work by the government, quite rightly are concerned about how they're going to feed their family. And the solution offered by the Weimar Republic is to print more money to give to the workers so that they can use that to buy things. Now, sometimes people ask, and we touched on this briefly again last time, sometimes people ask, oh, look how much quicker this is. Says it all, doesn't it? Sometimes people ask, well, concrete powder usually falls, so this is good to know. So, all as it should be then, seemingly. Although this here, let's have a look. I think there should be, I can't remember off the top of my head. Let me see if I can get the blueprint stuff. If there should be another wall there. Yes, there should be. So we'll put some more concrete powder here. So then this will be fine. Some people ask sometimes, why can't you just print more money and then people will be rich and you don't have any problems? But the thing is, money basically ties into a lot of other things. It's not as simple as you print more money and then that paper money or coin or whatever it is all of a sudden worth something. Money is only worth what people around you ultimately think it's worth. It's no good just kind of producing loads of pound coins, printing loads out, and then expecting everyone to honour the original price of a pound coin. The more there is of something, the less valuable it is. So when the Weimar Republic print a whole load of money, they kick off a process called hyperinflation. So they create a real problem for themselves, where the German currency is worth nowhere near what it used to be. It gets to a situation eventually where people have to collect their wages and go and spend them immediately, because if they wait to go to the shop to buy food, then the price of, say, bread will have increased so much that people can't afford it. And eventually that becomes the reality. Eventually people start burning their cash because it's not worth keeping. It becomes completely valueless. So it's a real problem, and obviously the economy and you can't buy and sell things in the usual way if this is taking place. I mean, people start bartering things and trading other goods instead of money because the money is not worth anything. Now, whereas before you could make the case that some of the problems the Weimar Republic face are not their fault, they really do kind of set this one up for themselves and how they respond to the invasion of the Ruhr, and it causes chaos. There's a really famous fact about how much the price of bread increases by, which really kind of sums this up, and it's basically that by the time hyperinflation has run its course, bread costs millions and millions of marks. So in January of 1923, just as this is all about to start, a loaf of bread is worth 250 marks. By the time you get to November of 1923, it's worth 200,000 million marks. So bread gets very expensive. And because things like bread and other goods that people need become so expensive, basically your money is worth nothing. And it's a real problem. Now, the difficulty caused by this is well, there are loads. There are a number of difficulties caused by this, but one of them is that Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party, who have been increasing in popularity in the early 1920s, especially since Adolf Hitler has been their leader. I don't know why that happens, but whatever. They are kind of sitting on the sidelines, and they can see people desperate, they can see people are hungry, they can see things are not going too well, and they see this as an opportunity for them to try and take control in Munich, where they're based, and eventually Germany overall. Mussolini had done a similar thing in Italy the year before, in 1922, when he basically marched on Rome and was given the power by the Italian king. The Nazis, Adolf Hitler especially, is extremely influenced by Mussolini. He really looks up to Mussolini, and he thinks he'd like to do a similar thing. So whereas Mussolini uses a group of black shirts to march on Rome and basically threaten violence until they're eventually given power, Adolf Hitler plans to use his group of stormtroopers, brown shirts, to do a similar thing. They're going to start in Munich, and then they are planning to eventually overthrow the Weimar Republic as a result. And the reason that they think they'll be successful in 1923 is because of the hyperinflation crisis, because everyone is furious with the Weimar Republic. So we'll have a little think in a moment about how successful they are there, but I'll have a quick scan across, see if there's any questions about anything, because there's quite a lot there, and we're making I've laid some carpets, and over here we're getting somewhere. It's a good thing someone's here to help, because I would not be doing too well. So let's have a look at where we're up to in terms of comments, if there's any questions. Yes, so someone's just shared, like collector's items or rare artifacts, if there are more of them they become worthless. So in terms of money, absolutely. Now, I'm thinking for next week, because we're not going to get this finished completely for exam day, and because for a few other reasons, we're probably going to play something completely different on Tuesday, and we're going to be using that to kind of highlight a few economic principles, which are generally just interesting and worth knowing about, but are also relevant to the Weimar Nazi Germany course. And basically, should highlight that if there is a small or limited amount of something, or a limited amount of people who can do a certain job, then their value increases. If you've got loads of those things, their value decreases. Okay, that's pretty typical. So yeah, that's a nice example. Someone missed the notification because they were reading a book. That's a really good reason. That's really good. That's very fair. And if finishing the book, then even better. It's a YouTube problem. Yeah, I'm going to blame YouTube. Well, what we'll do, we'll blame YouTube. But something's gone wrong somewhere. So it doesn't matter in the grand scheme, because we're coming towards the end. But we'll eventually have a little think about how we can use this going forward. But I'm hoping that using Instagram or something else will kind of just give a backup, so that if the notification bell isn't working, people can still know what we're up to. But it's all good. So, oh, okay, right, and everything else is fine. So, right, I'm laying the carpet. That's looking all good down there. We'll have a little think now about something called the beer hall putsch, or the Munich putsch. So, in the hang on a sec, we've just had a comment from a super chat comment. Do you know what? I'm not sure. Maybe someone can fact check that for me. I don't think. I think that's extremely unlikely, given Anne Frank's age alone. But I think that's it's extremely unlikely. I don't know if that's if I'm being trolled there. Probably am, to be quite honest. And in my innocence, I'm just unaware. But so everyone's angry in 1923. Everyone's furious with the Weimar Republic. They've not done themselves any favours, and the Nazis want to take advantage. So they arrange. When I say arrange, it sounds like it's a bit more organised than it is. Now, we're going to do a bit of cowboy building here. I'm going to lay the carpet directly on the grass, alright? Don't tell anyone. And if you see anybody doing this in real life, don't pay them. But I'm hoping I can be a bit more useful somewhere. Well, I probably aren't. Not going to be, but whatever. So the Nazis, the plan is, eventually, what they're hoping to do is take over. So in Munich, there are a number of right-wing politicians, what's called Gustav von Kahr, who's very vocally anti the Weimar Republic, but is also fairly anti the Nazis. And the Nazis start to try and gain his support to try and be more forceful in getting rid of the Weimar Republic. They hear that he is going to be giving a speech in a beer hall in Munich. I think it's the 8th of November, 1923. And their plan is, we'll surprise him, we'll threaten him if we have to, and we'll get him on board to support an attempt to take over the entire country. So, as he's given his speech, the building is, or at least the Nazis portray this as, the SA surround the building. Adolf Hitler fires a gun into the air and basically tells the people inside that the German Revolution has begun and they need to get on board fast. So he takes von Kahr and some other politicians into a side room and basically threatens them at gunpoint to get support for the Nazis. He basically threatens them to support the Nazi plan. And he claims, which, well, he explains to them that they also have the support of someone called Erich Ludendorff, who is an army general, and a German army general, who is under the impression and provides or gives Adolf Hitler the impression that he is able to get the army, the German army, on board to support the Nazis eventually. So the Nazi plan is we get the right-wing politicians on board, we take Munich with the support of the right-wing politicians, we get the German army on board, and then we'll eventually take over the Weimar Republic. Now, it all seems to be going really well until Ludendorff makes a big boo-boo, makes a big error, by allowing von Kahr and the others who had been held at gunpoint and who had agreed to the Nazis' plan. He basically lets them go home. He says, "Oh, you guys have promised to support the plan, so I'll let you go home." And they go home, and they eventually call the police and they call the army. And the morning after, the German army and the police in Munich meet with the Nazis. There's a street fight, a bit of a shootout. Adolf Hitler is injured. Eventually, he's arrested. A number of other leading Nazis are, and it seems like the Nazis are on the way out. So they've tried to take power by force. They've failed. That is ultimately the Munich Putsch in a nutshell. In the grand scheme, it sounds super simple, because it is, but the consequences of this are quite significant, and we'll come on to those in a moment, because in their failure, the Nazis ultimately start to sow the seeds of later success. So they fail to take power by force. They'll eventually realise that the route to power for them is a different one. So I'll just pause there for a second, because I want to have a look at what's going on and what I need to do next, and I'll keep an eye for questions. So let's see. Oh, someone's on it. Thank you very much, Fiona. Keen to learn, absolutely. You've got better since the first Minecraft stream. Thank you, Mirage. Well, I'll tell you what, whilst we're talking about progress, right? Just so you all know, this hill here was like a big hill, like this, right? And I've been accused of cheating on here before. I've been using command codes, guys. I've been using command codes. So I get the chat up like this, just in case anyone doesn't know, Get the chat up, and then I type in stuff, right? Like this, except with code. And then basically you can like remove all sorts of blocks. So I've been deleting stuff, and filling stuff, because we lost the first world that we started this all on with Mr. Tim. And now I'm feeling much more confident. So this looks a bit samey. I think, from what I remember, I think these walls were brick walls. So I'm going to do these in the brick walls to make this look a bit more authentic. But yeah, so we're making progress eventually. So nothing about a potential previous friendship between people who mentioned earlier. Brilliant. So many conspiracy theories. Hitler's still alive is conspiracy theory, absolutely. Although, on the sheer basis of old age, I imagine not anymore. If that was the case, I doubt very much. I know Nathan, who mentioned this question about conspiracy theories about Adolf Hitler being alive. There's a really good book, and it's called The Last Days of Hitler, and I have a copy of it. So if you want, maybe I should do this as a giveaway, right? So Nathan, you've got to subscribe and you've got to share my story 17 times, and then maybe I'll arrange a giveaway for you. But it's by a British historian who is actually contracted to travel to Berlin after the end of the Second World War to prove that Adolf Hitler had been killed, because there was a lot of mileage for certain groups to prove that he was still alive. So given you've brought it up, if you'd like to know more, because I know you're a very keen learner, I'm sure, then I can get that for you. That might be good, might it? So we're going to get some brick walls in here, and we're going to talk about the consequences of the Munich Putsch. So Adolf Hitler is arrested. He's going to go to court. He's going to be tried with treason. In terms of the prospects of the Nazis, they're looking pretty bleak. He's not the only one, by the way, but he's the most famous, of course, who's going to be going to trial. And it seems pretty good for the Weimar Republic in the grand scheme. We're going to talk in a moment that actually, despite the crisis caused by hyperinflation, they actually come out in the end okay, because they make a few changes. But Adolf Hitler goes to trial, and it's actually almost one of the best things that could happen for Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party in lots of ways, because he's given the opportunity through his trial to basically give huge speeches, long speeches, criticising the Weimar Republic, and he basically becomes a mini celebrity, because even though he is, he's in the process of being tried for trying to overthrow the government, lots of people are angry with the government. So lots of people actually agree with the sentiment, and they agree with lots of the points and the criticisms he raises about the Weimar Republic, because they've seen them themselves. And people, the judges themselves within the court system, are quite sympathetic to lots. Oh no, destroyed the wall. They're quite sympathetic as well to, I want a sandstone, I think that's what I was using. Let's see. Sand, not sand. There we go. They're quite sympathetic to what the Nazis, or at least what Adolf Hitler claimed he was trying to do. So he becomes a celebrity, he becomes a little bit famous, he gets loads of publicity for the Nazi Party, and he is sent to prison for 5 years. He serves 9 months. And whilst he's in prison, I mean, he's in prison, but he lives a pretty decent lifestyle while he's in there. Whilst he's in prison, he writes a book, it's called Mein Kampf. Now, the original title is huge, and it's all, I can't remember the exact title, but it's really long, and the book itself, Mein Kampf, the editors think it's a snappier title, means My Struggle, and it's all about why, as a summary, it's all about how Germany has got into the position it's got into, the history included within, in terms of Adolf Hitler's understanding of why Germany's in the situation it's in, is really poor, it's worth saying. There's a lot of blaming of Jews for things that, oh, goodness. Right, here we go, let's try and resolve this. There's a lot of blaming of Jews and other nation groups for things that it's completely out of order, that completely incorrectly. So a lot of the... now, does anybody know how I can place this door? There's always going to be something simple. Ah, there we go, you look at the floor apparently. So, not that... it's always worth saying, the history itself that he uses to base a lot of his ideas upon is appalling. And that maybe explains why... the conclusions he comes to are ultimately so difficult to stomach and so difficult to understand and so difficult to conceive of and wrap your head around, because they're ultimately based on a really poor understanding of how the world has come to look like it did when Adolf Hitler was looking at it. But regardless of that, he writes a book, it sells a lot of copies, he's released in 9 months to more fame. Now, he is banned from speaking publicly until 1927, so people realise that if you let this guy go out and speak publicly, people are going to be drawn to his cause, people are going to be drawn to him in a number of ways, and people don't want to see that. I'm going to make this a brick wall as well. So that's a problem. So it's a problem for the Nazi Party, and their support does dry up for a number of years, not just because Hitler can't speak publicly, but for other reasons. But ultimately, one of the main consequences of the Munich Putsch is that the Nazis realise they can't take power by force. So they're not going to get into power by forcing their way in. Now hang on a sec, before I start doing too much damage to some good work here, I just wanted to put a brick wall in, that's all I wanted to do. There's going to be a gap, what have I done? Oh, I think I know what the solution is. A bit more cowboy building coming up. Any chance... Is it this one? No. It's going to need another slab. I tell you what we're going to do. I'm not going to touch it, because maybe the wall I need to build. Let's have a look at the blueprint. So I'm going to have a little look at the front section, just at the bottom. Oh, I can see the bit that's being built. Yeah. Actually, some of these walls don't go all the way along either. So, I'm going to build a lower wall here. Let's just do that. Oh, this is strange. Oh, anybody who knows Minecraft, let me know. Put in the comments, how do I fix this? Add andesite slab. Okay. Right, let's see. Hang on. Someone's on. Sometimes I mention things. I really regret mentioning them. Someone's mentioned my my plans to rewrite raps. Sorry, I've been writing some bars lately, and I'll be honest. I think some of them are pretty good, right? I think some of them could go places, and if I can find someone who's got better flow than me, I'm telling you, it could be fire in the park time. So andesite Is that spelled incorrectly? Can someone just have a look? Remove the carpet. Oh, remove the carpet. Right, let's have a look. We're going to get back, don't worry, to the biggest consequence. What cliffhanger of the Munich Putsch in a sec. But, oh, there we go. That'll do. And then I'll put, I think, I'll put also. Now, someone's asked, is one supposed to be off centre now? I think so. I mean, this. If you look at the blueprint, you can see it's pretty tricky. This middle section, but we need to get this bit right because it's already been done. It's already been done because this here, look, is the bookcase, the bookshelf that opens up that leads into the secret annex. Now, if we can get the outside constructed today, next time we'll use her diary. We'll use Anne Frank's diary to fill in the gaps because, just as a little aside, she mentions that when the bookshelf opens. The door frame is really low, so they keep banging their heads on the top to start with. It's just such a human thing, isn't it? So they put a pillowcase to kind of protect their heads as they're going. So I'm going to try. I'm just thinking about these walls. One of them I'm going to half fill. I don't want to. I get the feeling that he knows what he's doing. Look, so I don't want to mess about. But I will move this wall because this needs doing. So I'll come back to history wrapped and my grand plan to write bars, history themed, because I think they're coming along nicely, but we've got to finish off with the Munich Putsch. So, the biggest consequence, in lots of ways, of the Munich Putsch, the failure of the Munich Putsch, is not necessarily that Adolf Hitler gets a shortened prison sentence or he brings out a book, even though they are significant, or that he gets banned from speaking until 1927. The biggest consequence in lots of ways is that the Nazis realise they can't get into power by force, and they realise they're going to have to try and engage with the political process. Now, this is not an admission from the Nazis that all of a sudden they like democracy. It is not the Nazis themselves thinking, we were wrong to try and force our way in, and we've realised now we need to win people over, hearts and minds. It's the Nazis realise that that's the most efficient and the quickest way for them to gain power, so they're going to have to play ball. They release a programme called the 25-point programme, which outlines some of the things the Nazis are going to plan to achieve, but they don't achieve a great deal in terms of popularity for years. So it's an important step in 1924, really, after Adolf Hitler's trial, and goes to prison. It's an important step, the realisation that they're going to have to use democratic means to try and get power legally, but they're not going to see that for some time because the Weimar Republic experiences a period of stability in the 1920s between 1924 and 1929, and it's called the Golden Years because almost out of nowhere the situation changes. Some really competent politicians get into place and they start making some seriously positive changes. They really start making some progress economically. They start improving their situation on the international stage, and things are all right. And for lots of people in Germany, they improve. So we'll have a little think about that in a moment. So I'm just going to have a quick check. Sir, you should use a night vision potion. Okay. I don't know how to use one of those, so if anyone can tell me how to use a night vision potion, that'd be brilliant. But the floor's 1 block thick. See, this is when you start to realise that you don't know how something works, because when people start to advise you, and you can't follow the advice, yeah, you've got a problem. But it's all good. So I'm going to have a look at the blueprints. Now, this is where my friend and I are going to start getting probably caught up and getting caught in each other's way. No, we're not actually, because at the back, right, I found something I can crack on with here. This is in my area. I can cope with this. I'm going to do the tree. Now, I don't know if you can build trees, but in order to build the tree, we're going to have to make some space, aren't we? So I'm going to clear up a few of these for a bit and then burrow away and keep myself busy while we talk about something for a little second. And once we've done that, we'll have enough space to build the tree. That'll be great. Look at this. What a fantastic stream this is. Moving up and down and clearing away some blocks. And we'll just keep an eye to see how things are, because then we can have a little talk about things. But we're going to think about the golden years. We're going to think about the 1924 to 1929. The key player, the key figure we need to know about is a guy called Gustav Stresemann. Gustav Stresemann was a German politician. He served as the Chancellor basically in 1923, and he brought towards the end of the hyperinflation crisis, and he brought Germany out of it, and we'll have a look at how that happens in a moment. But he also served in a number of other roles. He wasn't actually the Chancellor for that long, but he had his finger in a lot of pies, and he he did improve Weimar Germany's situation in a number of ways. In fact, let's just lay some grass. Let's just get enough to get the tree out. Lay some grass. So one of the most important things that he's done is he does a number of economic deals. He does a number of deals with the United States of America to secure loans, to readdress the amount that they owe in terms of reparation payments. So they actually renegotiate how much they're going to have to pay the USA back and the other allies. And that really helps the Weimar Republic out. Hang on, let me get this down there, yeah. So, there's a deal struck called the Dawes Plan. It's agreed in 1924. If someone could check that for me, it might be 1924 out of 5. I think it's 1924. Happy building, thank you very much. See you later. I think it's 1924. If anyone can check that would be really helpful. But it's called the Dawes Plan, and basically it's a deal struck with the Vice President of the USA, or an eventual Vice President of the United States of America, but a guy called Charles Dawes. He's a politician, and basically the plan is that they're going to lower the amount owed in terms of the payments given by the Weimar Republic, but they are going to start repaying them. So the whole passive resistance thing that they were doing, where workers aren't going to work and they're not going to pay France and Belgium what they owe them, they're going to pull that. That's not happening anymore. So the Weimar Republic are going to start engaging with the reparations payment. The payments themselves will be lowered slightly, and they will receive loans from the USA to help restart the German economy. And it works, largely. There's a new currency that's introduced, so the now worthless currency that was being used, called the Deutschmark, is chopped. You get rid of that, and they replace it with something called the Rentenmark. Now, for people who'd saved up loads of the previous currency, this is gutting. Can you imagine saving up all your life pound coins, and then you find out when you're like really old that pound coins are worth nothing, and you have to restart with a new currency? I'd be gutted, right? Not that I have many pounds in the bank, but I would be gutted. But that's what they do. So they replace the currency, and even though it is super frustrating for people who've saved a lot, and for a number of others, it does resolve and slowly start to fix the problem with the German currency. So that's really important in 1924. In 1925, they signed something called the Locarno the Locarno Pact, where the Weimar Republic agree they're going to now accept their western borders, not the eastern borders. That's kind of left undetermined, but they say we're going to agree to where our borders are in the west, and we're also not going to try and take land or seek land or invade land through any other means. It's ultimately a non-aggression pact treaty, and even though in the grand scheme of things it doesn't resolve a great deal, it shows the Weimar Republic is slowly starting to get some respect on the international stage. Now, lots of people are angry about this. You might think all these things are really good. Lots of people are angry. The Nazis are furious. Adolf Hitler's furious. Lots of people who are already angry with the Weimar Republic are actually quite angry, because even though Stresemann is leading the Weimar Republic into a period of relative stability, it's coming at the cost of ultimately admitting and accepting their responsibility to pay reparations payments, or to respect the Treaty of Versailles, because ultimately that is what is being done. If you say, right, can we have a loan to pay the reparations payments, it might resolve the problem of people breathing down your neck wanting the money, but you are also, by admission, saying, yeah, we have a responsibility to pay these, and we intend to pay these. Lots of people aren't happy with that. And it's the same with the Locarno Pact. People don't want to see Germany, in Germany this is, many people don't want to see Germany accepting the borders in the West, or promising anything about how they're going to resolve disputes in the future. So some people are really unhappy, but for most people things ease off. The economy starts to pick up, people start to get jobs, they start to get money, they start getting radios, the cinema starts kicking off, nightclubs are kicking off in Berlin. There's a lot that lots of people are very happy with. And this kind of explains, which you said earlier about the Nazis losing a lot of support in the 1920s, this kind of explains why that was. They lose a lot of support in the 1920s because things start to go alright. They actually start to go alright for a while. There's a really useful phrase, it's relevant here, it's relevant for lots of periods of history, and the phrase is, people don't protest on an empty stomach. Now, yeah, I'm not very good. This is much faster. This is very useful. So let's have a look. Dawes Plan. Yes, thank you for confirming. April 1924. This is good. Yeah, I'm not sure. Let's get it shared, guys. Maybe people have missed it entirely, or maybe people are just super bored of learning about Weimar and Nazi Germany. That's a real possibility. I'm not sure what all these are. I think they're coming from me. I don't think looks like I'm not too well. If anybody can shed some light on what is going on here, I would really appreciate that. But people don't protest on an empty stomach is your favourite phrase. Maybe it is. I think maybe it is. I think it really. Yeah. Oh, I am boring, aren't I? I bore myself. I just think it's so useful, and it explained so much of so much. Like, it really does. When things are going well, people get on with it, and when they're not, they complain and they moan. In the early 1920s, when Germany is struggling, when people are trying to take over, when there's violence in the streets, people don't want the system in place. When things start to improve, people, they might not like it, but they stop moaning about it. And if you're a protest party like the Nazis are, well, you've got a problem. You've got a problem if everyone is getting on with how things are. So let's have a look. Night vision got splashed on you. Oh, it's the night vision your teammate put on you. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. That's friendship, that is, guys. You need to get yourself a friend who puts night vision or splashes night vision on you when you're doing nothing useful but chopping up blocks and laying grass, laying grass. Yeah, so that's my favourite phrase, and it's super useful here. So this period, 24 to 29, are known as the golden years in German history. They're also known simultaneously, not coincidentally, that makes a lot of sense, as the lean years for the Nazi Party, because their membership just does not improve at all. Now, one of the big ultimate counterfactuals of history, the big what-ifs of history, is what would have happened in Germany if things had continued to be positive. Now, one of the real problems with the German recovery in the 1920s is that it's all based on American finance. The Dawes Plan is basically, it's great that you can take loans from the USA if the USA is doing very well economically, can afford to continue to wait for you to pay back your loan. If anything should happen and the USA need their money back, then you've got a real problem. So, let me just check the time, see if we'll go into this. 38 minutes. Oh, hang on. Maybe I've misquoted something, or repeated it incorrectly, or read it incorrectly. The quote is, "People don't protest on a full stomach." That's the phrase. Yeah, that's it. So if I've done it the wrong way around, I can only apologise. But we're on 30 minutes, so we've got time to start this off. So we'll get to the end of Gustav Stresemann, and we'll start laying the foundation for what we'll talk about on Tuesday. And in all likelihood, we're not going to get through everything for the course, for the exam, for those who are sitting the exam, but that's absolutely fine. That's fine. It's still, I think, useful what we're going through right now. So, as I was saying, everything's fine if your creditors, if the people giving you money, loaning you money, are in a good financial situation themselves. Now, one of the criticisms levelled at Gustav Stresemann and the golden years is that ultimately they were papering over the cracks. They weren't fixing the problem, they were just relying on US government, US finance, US banks to fix problems for them. And this is why, when the US does experience a serious economic crisis later on in the decade, the end of the 1920s, this is why Germany are hit so hard. Now, hindsight is a wonderful thing. When Germany starts securing loans from the USA, it's a very sensible thing to do in lots of ways. It's easy to say now that they made a mistake because we know the end of the story. But at the time, in the 1920s, the USA are the economic powerhouse globally. Britain are on the decline internationally and economically. The Soviet Union was... Not that the Soviet Union ever become an economic powerhouse for what it's worth compared to the USA, but the Soviet Union is still trying to understand for themselves what being the Soviet Union even is. And Joseph Stalin is... There's all sorts of things being experimented with and tried and trialed, and all sorts of compromises on their personal beliefs and principles being introduced to try and stay afloat. So by the time we get to the end of the 1920s, it might seem foolish now to rely on the USA, but at the time it did make a lot of sense. Now, one of the real kind of awkward, pure coincidental stories really about this is that Gustav Stresemann passes away just before this crisis happens, and just before he passes away he's involved in basically turning the screw and doubling down on American finance. So we'll get through this bit in a moment. We'll see if we can get the roof up over here. If we can get the roof up over here, we'll talk about the end of Gustav Stresemann, and then we'll call this a night. And I'll keep a quick check, and we'll go from there. So, oh no, someone's unliked. Oh my goodness. I'm going to call this whole thing off now. This is outrageous. I'm going to find out who it was. But we'll to be fair, we're getting quite late on, aren't we? Yeah, we're getting quite late on. So we'll get the roof on. We'll finish this off, and we'll worry about everything else that we've not got to yet, including Adolf Hitler becoming the Chancellor later. But in October 1929, Gustav Stresemann is pushing for another deal with the USA, and it will eventually be agreed, and it will eventually be called it'll be called the Young Plan. So the Dawes Plan is 1924, the Young Plan is 1929. It's a similar thing. So the good thing for the Weimar Republic is that the Young Plan will basically lower or reduce the reparations payments by 20%. So they're going to owe 20% less than they originally did, and they're going to continue to receive loans from the USA. Now, like I say, it's helpful in lots of ways for it's helpful for the German economy in lots of ways to have this money from the USA, because they're putting it to use, they're building things, people are getting jobs, and things are improving. Lots of people don't like the fact that Germany are taking money from the USA because they see this as dealing with the enemy, the people who had originally been involved in putting Germany in the position they were in anyway. But in early October 1929, Gustav Stresemann is in the Reichstag, basically forcing through a deal. He's forcing through the agreement of the Young Plan, so more money can be secured from the USA. He passes away days after, so it's really, a sad story, really. In fact, I don't think it's even days. I think it might be the same day that they agree, the Young Plan. So, in fact, I'm just going to have a quick check. If I did have a tab up for Gustav. Where is he? So, yeah, according to this, so hours after he gets the Reichstag to agree the Young Plan and secures more American finance, he passes away. So that's sad in and of itself. A few weeks later, at the end of October 1929, the US stock market crashes, and the US financial system goes into free fall, and people sell their stocks and their shares super quickly. People go bankrupt, people lose jobs, and the banks who'd been giving money to Germany and the people that the German economic recovery had been relying on start turning to Germany and asking for their money back as soon as it can possibly be delivered. And they don't have it, because lots of these companies in Germany have taken the loans and put them into factories and put them into things that weren't going to pay out for some time. So it's one of these things where, in hindsight, banking on the USA as heavily as they did wasn't sensible. At the time, it did make a form of sense and it did work. But what this does is, the Nazis, who've kind of been lying in wait, still waiting, still hating on the Weimar Republic, still calling for change, see this as their next opportunity. Now, next time, we'll just before the next exam, we'll finish off by getting to Adolf Hitler becoming the Chancellor, because there's a really strong argument to be made that if the Wall Street crash doesn't happen, Adolf Hitler does not become the Chancellor of Germany. Definitely when he does. So we'll touch on that next time. So I'll have a quick check for comments. We've got some positivity here about Gustav Stresemann. Yeah, it is a shame. Yeah, hours. A stroke. Yeah, so that's been fact checked, or that's common knowledge. Excellent. Yeah, he suffered a series of strokes. He was really stressed. He was really involved in so much. So a really interesting, influential figure in German history there. And always good. This. His name, Stresemann, is Stresemann. It's a double N. Lots of people forget. So in terms of writing answers for questions for papers, it's super important. So what we're going to do, this is nearly done, thankfully, which is good. So we should have the annex, the main outline, done soon. So we'll get that polished off, and then Tuesday, I think we'll play something else, which will be a bit more relaxed, where I am a little bit more confident in my multitasking ability, and we'll finish off with Adolf Hitler becoming the Chancellor of Germany. We'll do a few exam prep questions, and then that will be it. We'll decide after that where we go with whether we continue with the live streams in the meantime, because the purpose is that they're supposed to be useful for GCSE exams. If there is a market, or if there is an interest in doing anything with them after that, then we'll address that when we get there, or we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So yeah, it's looking good, isn't it? Any clue you can give as to what game? It's a very different game to this. I'll be playing online. I think I've found a teammate to play with. And as with Red Dead 2 earlier this week, it's a game I would play in my spare time. So Not that I haven't enjoyed playing these ones. Oh, look, just as we're about to finish the roof. A lot of the games I've played so far on these streams, I've played purely because they fit in with the period or the actual topic we're looking at. The one I'll try Tuesday, you're going to be so underwhelmed, guys. You're going to be like, oh, this is, you're looking for an excuse to play the games you'd ordinarily play. Maybe I am. Am I going to do subscribe of the month? Well, I am very keen for it. And actually, I've been thinking about doing a giveaway, guys, right? Because, call me cynical, I have a bike in the shed. It's in great nick, it's brand new, it just wasn't wanted by the person it was given to initially, and I want to find a new home for it. So I'm thinking, maybe I could do a subscriber giveaway. Maybe I could do a giveaway for subscriber of the month. But I have to work out the criteria. That's what I need to do in the meantime. So, we'll see how far we get with that. I mean, all likelihood is that will end up on eBay or on Marketplace because I'll run out of time. But just super quickly before we finish off then, because whilst I have laid a few grass blocks and laid a few carpets, the annex is taking shape nicely. We've even got some steps here. So, this is the bookshelf. No. Alright, fair. Right. Credit where it's due. That's pretty good, isn't it? Now, I'll be honest, I don't think this is, completely accurate, but in terms of the mechanism for opening the door, but that's pretty good. Yeah, and then what we'll do when this is up, we're going to fill it using the diary entry, using some photos, and then we'll do a virtual tour. We'll have a look around where everything was. We'll talk about where certain conversations happened. I won't do that on the live stream. We'll make a video about that. But that door opening thing is pretty sweet. I like that. How would that exchange work? I don't know is the answer. I'll have to find out how it works. But what I want to do first is I want to learn how to do wheelies, because I've never learned how to do wheelies properly. And as soon as I've got a bike, I think before I give it away, I might as well learn. So that's my big plan for the summer. Very, very exciting. So we're going to call it there. Excellent work here. I'm sure you can all appreciate what's happened. You'll probably see a form of this on the channel at some point, more completed. If there's a market for carrying on with the story of the rise of the Nazis beyond Hitler becoming Chancellor and doing this whilst we go, maybe I'll look at it. But well, we'll see, because it is easier to do this offline and not to do it live. So we'll see. Right. Have a good one. Yep, no more questions. Excellent. I'd love to see you do really. Yeah, me too. Tell me about it. So, I'm thinking that's something. If I get it up and running, that will be my big subscriber giveaway reveal. I'll put it on my story, because I'm into my story these days. I'm getting into this old Instagram malarkey. So, oh, and I don't think I even mentioned the other thing with Instagram that's worth, especially for the purposes of revision. The thing that's really nice about it is that you can create reels, these little short clips. And I mean, I'm so old that I feel like I need to explain it, but just so it's clear. And what I'm doing on Instagram is every day for exam season, up until the exam next week, I'm putting up a new clip, a maximum of 1 minute, some are shorter, some like 30 seconds, about a particular topic. So for tonight, for instance, when we talked about Gustav Stresemann and we talked about the Doors plan, I'm clipping that, putting it on Instagram. It's like a minute long. So for revision purposes, you'll basically have like a list of things where you can just click it and get a revision video. Some people don't have Instagram. I could do YouTube Shorts. If I can get a way to transfer it over, I will. I'm finding that the engagement with YouTube is very hit and miss. I'm not sure how it will be with Instagram for what it's worth, but I'm brand new to that, so we've got to take our time and build it up properly, haven't we, guys? We've got to build up our time and do it properly. If we take our time and we do it well, then I really think that this channel and this way of kind of learning works. Because I didn't want to. I mean, on Tuesday, just for off the cuff now, there was a Tuesday I did a live stream for the American West, and there was a GCSE exam on the American West on the Wednesday. Not many people saw it, which is what it is. But when I saw the paper the day after, a number of things we discussed in the video the day before came up. And the thing that's nice about videos is you don't have to repeat it. So for exam and revision purposes, anything we go through, any questions that are answered or any details that are offered, you don't need a teacher in person. You don't need someone to come and keep telling you it. You can just watch the video or keep going over it. So it should be super useful. But still. Brilliant. Right, we've got the front bit and the outside bit. Now we are going to need, just in terms of what the building actually looks like, just for a final point, we're going to have to lift all of this a few blocks, because if you look at the blueprints, this back room is slightly above the rest, but I don't think it's by much, because you don't see this part when you look at the front of the building, which is part of the point. When you actually look at the front of the building, you can't tell. Well, maybe that's about right. Maybe we're bang on. Superb construction work back there. Anyway, right, I'm rambling now. So, have a good evening all. Take care, and all the rest. And make sure, if you've not, liked blah 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 and all that usual stuff, and sent it to everyone and told everyone how much you're learning and how excited you are about learning history, and all the rest. If you haven't done that, then you need to do it, because it's very, 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 very important. Right, have a good evening all. See you later. Bye.